Very good evening to everyone, and it's really my pleasure to be in front of you to kind of very briefly talk about future of pay. I know Dr. Bhati has been talking about future of work, and the kind of the context is, how the future of pay will look like. I don't have the energy to match Mr. Bhatia's that level of enthusiasm, but I'll definitely try and put in my effort from my side. So, what Dr. Bhatia said, my name is Kavitha. I've been with ADP for almost 7 years now, and it's been wonderful working with them. What we did was in this year, just an introduction about ADP. We are a global organization. We pay almost 40 million workforce across the world, and almost 80% of them are in Fortune 500 organizations. We are present in about 140 countries, and we are about 60,000 plus employees strong. So we kind of are the pioneers as well as leaders when it comes to the payroll and the compliance part. So in India, we are present for almost 13 years now. We are present since 2012. We have two entities. One is, serving the India operations, and the second entity kind of serves the global clients. In 2023, what we did was we partnered with Economic Times HR wing, and we kind of did a very in-depth study and a survey to look at how the future of pay will look like. We partnered with them to kind of reach out to very eminent leaders, both in large organizations as well as small organizations, to kind of have their in-depth insights. So we did a lot of personal interviews. We also did a study through 200 different leaders, right? So there are three emerging trends, and what was heartening for me was a lot of you in this forum, today's forum, also resonated many of the points that we, that came through our study. What are the three main trends that are emerging when we look at future of pay? Is one, definitely, there is a big shift in pay. So what are the big shift in pay? I would call it three points, or 3 to 4 points. The payroll data is becoming very critical. What in payroll data has become critical, we look in the next point. The second is also in terms of the data security perspective. I think someone who just spoke before this session talked about the current law also in terms of how data needs to be protected and the security part of it. The third is the digital transformation. Again, many tables had digital as one of the main things that they kind of focus on. And definitely the fourth is when it comes to the compliances part, right? So these are comprehensive part when it comes to the payroll perspective. The second is definitely return to human-centric. So it's no more people working on Excels who can produce pay sheet, or the employees getting the payroll on time. It's beyond accuracy and timeline when it comes to pay. So it is about how your employees, the talents, are skilled in terms of handling the multiple challenges that they have, the need to work with different technologies, the need to kind of be analytical, etc. Right? So that's the big return to human-centric. And the third most important point was how can organization and HR leaders reimagine pay? When we talk about reimagining pay, there are 2-3 main points which stand out. One is, can we customize flexible payroll solutions for them? That's number one. Second, there is also a lot of emerging requirement in terms of early access to pay, right? Can they have pay whenever they need? It need not be part of the monthly pay cycle, right? So these are the three main themes that I know the study kind of resulted with, and many of you also have kind of already kind of reinforced is what I would say. So this is some depth of data, why pay becomes important, because a lot of senior executives are asking for this information so that they can make more relevant decisions. Again, one of the table kind of focused on why the data is required, how HR can influence CEOs and CFOs in terms of driving business growth, right? The second point is about also the talent. Talent was another point, again, all of you touched upon. How do you attract and retain talent with the instrument that we have in terms of customizing payroll for them? The second part is also in terms of how compliant are we when it comes to meeting the statutory requirements, and also the workforce compensation. So this is more in terms of the digital transformation part. I think COVID was the biggest disruptor. They were the biggest CIO that the industry could have had. because many employees were doing work in the remote and they had to, irrespective of whether the bills were digitally getting scanned, uploaded, whether they are able to have the right tax deductions, etc., was very important. So digital transformation is no more, only the CIOs who's talking about, is the HR. And definitely, how do we build skills, when it comes to this domain, right? How do you ensure that the people who are handling this are kind of knowledgeable? Because there is a full spectrum when it comes to HR and the related pay. It could be the time, which my colleague Prasanna will talk about. It could be the other HCM technology that you're working on. How can you share data with the finance people? Because there are a lot of questions that are getting asked, for insight-driven decision-making, right? So the people who are handling these functions need to be really upskilled. So that's one of the things that, the HR specialists are going to focus on. And the last point that I talked about, how do we reimagine pay? I think many people agreed that they will need to introduce faster access or early access to the wages. It could be because of emergencies, or it could be of unplanned expenses. Many of you, I work with many organizations. Many of them are now coming up with new flexible pay options, so that both, not only in terms of tax optimization, but also in terms of how the employee would like to kind of take their eligible pay, and also the frequent pay cycles. It need not be monthly. Many of us know in US and other countries they have even weekly pays or bi-weekly pays. So India is moving definitely in the direction of moving away from monthly pays. Maybe it's a matter of time. So these are some of the large findings that our study had. I think many of you already are resonating the same, and very glad to kind of, when this gets reinforced. So I'll take a pause here in the interest of time, and maybe I'll request my colleague Prasanna to come and talk about how organizations can adopt technology from a time perspective and ensure that the right data is getting captured, we are able to drive productivity and influence the larger business. If there are any questions, maybe I can take before I hand it over to Prasanna. Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm sure we have reached almost the fag end of the day. It may not be the right time to speak, but I'll just keep it a very brief and simple. How do you, post-COVID, we've been looking at the hybrid workforce and the lot of new norms that have come in, right? How do you power your productivity of the workforce, with the time solution that I'm going to talk about? I'm Prasanna Kotha. I'm Vice President Time for Asia Pac. So how do you harness the power of time and attendance, for the organizations to improve the productivity of the workforce, right? So that being said, what are the pain points that the organizations kind of face when you look at the different types of workforce, right? So number one being contactless workforce tracking, right? So post-COVID, nobody wants to really use the attendance systems to track time. They don't want to touch the systems, right? So you need to provide the organizations with the contactless tracking systems and shift scheduling. I'm going to talk about how if there are manufacturing organizations or the organizations which are working for 24/7 kind of workforce, you need to have a system to track the overtime and shift scheduling, and these are the complexities that you get to see in the organizations. And organizations are also moving towards a distributed workforce, right? You have full-time employees, part-time workforce, the contract workforce, and the gig workers, and what have you, right? And these are the different types of workforce that you get to see. And post-COVID, it's getting really pronounced, right? So how do you solve this problem? And also post-COVID working conditions, like people work from home, they work for part of the week at home and part of the week at office. They could be on holiday working. So these are the challenges that the organizations with CAOs, CHROs of the organizations facing, right? So the last one being, seamless integration. So there are many systems that you may have, be it payroll, HRMS, and what have you, and how do you integrate these systems with the real-time, time tracking systems, right? So that being the key. So how do you solve, right? How are we solving this particular problem is the fact that, we provide end-to-end, systems, be it the biometrics, fingerprint, facial recognition, palm vein detection, so on and so forth. And, you may have the legacy systems. We can actually use the legacy systems also to integrate and also mobile apps available both on iOS and Android, which gives you the liberty to sort of use the systems interchangeably, right? And the data from that goes into the cloud system, which is built by ADP, and this actually allows you to kind of use, access it anywhere, anytime, across the globe, right? As long as you are on the internet, you can actually have this information available with you readily at your fingertips. And the beauty of this system is it can integrate with any of the payroll and HRMS systems that you may have, right? So the end-to-end stack of this is provided by ADP Time. So what are the different modules that this particular product has is attendance tracking, attendance management, shift scheduling, overtime, right? And the real-time dashboards and role-based dashboards, self-service. So the beauty of this is this product is built in a way that configurability is the key, right? So an organization with 20 employees can use the product versus 30,000 employees can use the same product. So everything is configurable in the product, and this is very, very powerful in the way that it can integrate with any of the systems that you may have, right? So the reporting, advanced analytics, etc. I think somebody was actually referring to how the analytics are going to be beneficial to the organizations, right? So you may have, organizational attendance and time in a very, quantitative format, but the HRs can take a view of, if somebody is not working for a number of hours that they're supposed to be, or they're not really producing the results, HRs can engage and do it. I mean, there are multiple use cases that can be built, with the analytics, but one of them being that. So out-of-box integration, as I said, can be done with any of the downstream and upstream systems. So how this is unique in the way it is, because it can track the distributed workforce, and it also is configurable, as I said. So configurability is the core of what we do. And if you look at the ease of integration with any of the systems, be it SAP or any of the downstream systems across what is available in the market, this can seamlessly integrate and ensure that the data flows seamlessly both the ways, right? This can read the data from any of the HRMS payroll systems and also pushes back into the, these systems with so much of ease, right? It's unparalleled configurability, as I just spoken about. An organization with 10 employees and an organization with 1 lakh employees can use the same product. Everything is at the fingertips of HR to configure the policies for what they need from this particular product, right? So why, what is the use? What is the use case for this time solutions is that we are actually, as organizations, right, the increasing demand for this product from the fact that, the compliance is one of the key things from a labor compliance perspective, and also the core efficiency is automated time tracking, right? There are multiple use cases why you need to have automated time tracking. So this may not be relevant for some of the white-collar workforce, but it actually certainly is useful, when you look at the blue-collar workforce, or it could be, semi-blue-collar, gray-collar, type of workforce as well, right? Preventing payroll leakage is one of the things that we harp on, so that, when you track your time, when you track your leave properly, so your payroll gets processed without any hiccups. So that's one of the things, and analytics and insights are the key for an organization to move forward, and this data will help you move in that right direction. And the last but not the least is the scalability and flexibility. Today you may have 100 employees, and the next 5 years you may have 1,000 employees. These systems are scalable and give you that elasticity of going up and down in terms of the workforce tracking. So the trends that we see in the market, why we think it is relevant, is the fact that, it's India, demographic dividends, is a huge workforce, and, and most of them is coming into the organized workforce, and you need systems to track. And also the fact that, technology advancements are happening, which gives the real-time ability, you need to track people on real-time basis, so that you can take decisions which are useful for the organizations. And also the new labor codes that are getting, passed in the Indian Parliament is going to ensure that, you need to track time and attendance with so much of ease, right? Changes in the workforce, post-COVID, I just spoke about hybrid work culture is picking up big time, and also full-time, part-time, gig workers, contractual workforce are adding to the complexities of it. So in a nutshell, if you were to look at, there are 3 types of workforce that you see: work from home, full-time workers, and mobile workforce. So you have different systems to track all of them, but at the end of the day, everything goes and sits in the cloud, which can be accessed anywhere, anytime across the globe, right? With any system that you may have, as long as you are on internet. So that's the beauty of the product. And some of the, case studies. The first case study is about, one of the leading healthcare chain. It's India's one of the largest cardiac healthcare chain, which uses our product, and they have more than 16,000 employees. And the problem statement is very simple. They have distributed workforce across the locations. They have full-time, part-time, shift workers, and the data has to be tracked in real time. So we ensure that the data is given to them in a way that they can take great decisions out of this, right? So that the payroll also is not compromised. And the second one is India's leading, homegrown logistics company with about 12,000 employees as well, use our mobile app-led solution to track their time and attendance and leave so that the payroll is not compromised and there's no payroll leakage for the same. The third one is about India's one of the leading small finance banks. We started with them, about 7 years ago, and now it's about 25,000 odd employees use the platform across 700 locations. So you see all of them are across the distributed locations, and this platform is built in a way that configurability is at the core of what HRs can do, and the power of HR, to be able to implement the policies the way they would like for attendance and leave is the core of what we do. Thank you very much, and if you have any questions, I'm glad to take.